DFS shutdown. We are getting desperate, but we are keeping the content coming. I'm Nolan Kelly here with Alex Awesemo Baker, the world's #1 DFS player. We're going to be talking a little Democratic debate tonight because FanDuel has a contest out, and Alex has been hard at work. He's built a model. We are set and we are ready to go to bring you the DFS content that you need, despite the fact that we are down to Mexican soccer, MMA, and possibly just presidential debates. Alex, what's going on?
Not much, man. It's been a weird few days where, for us DFS players, our whole life, daily life has really been altered. Yesterday, cool to get in some UFC, and I know a lot of people are playing some soccer Mexican league. I haven't, I don't know a single player in that, so I haven't dived into it yet. But how about you? What have you been up to?
I absolutely have a lineup in there for sure. We actually have Mexican League content thanks to our soccer writer Tristan Ho, who has been delivering some analysis for these slates. So if you are just jonesing for some DFS and you need some advice, head on over to osmo.com and we can help you out with some of these sports. We also have a great UFC show and article. Mark Stein does our weekly article, and Pete and Jason are hosting a Thursday show every Thursday. Pete's, of course, a current MMA fighter, and Jason's a great analyst. So the two of them have been delivering some top-notch quality content for us. So all is not lost. I actually really enjoyed that UFC slate last night. I'm not a big UFC player, but I think after this, I'm going to play more. It was a lot of fun.
It was, man, but one of the worst things about UFC is like the very first fight can decide your night,
I
and
know it's true,
yeah,
but if you have see what I like about it is you have like a few. If you get like the first couple right, then you got a lot of outs, and you're like, okay, well, I've got like five different scenarios where I could go 6 for 6 here, right?
yeah, exactly. Last night it was funny because that the first fight had this really popular chalk like person who was like a dog and be a Malecki, and then she went out and dominated.
Oh
So
yeah, hey, I had her too, man, for sure. That's
yeah,
great. So
yeah. But what have you been up to, man? Now that we don't have sports every day.
yeah, well, so we've got we've been planning some content for next week, and we're going to keep this going. It's basically Josh Engelman and Laffy and Ben Ross are planning a 2K tournament with legendary teams from the NBA past. So it's a 16 team tournament. We're going to be simulating the games on 2K, and then there's a 10K top prize. So if you watch it and you play along, you can fill out the bracket, and if you win and you're the most successful person in that bracket, you will win a 10K top prize, which is a pretty ridiculously good prize. So we're going to keep the content coming here, which is great. I know that it's a big part of a lot of people's routine to wake up and watch that NBA strategy show and stuff like that. So we're hoping that this will get us through the next couple of weeks. So come on over and check out the information about that on the Awesemo webpage, or you can just follow the Twitter account, check out the Awesemo YouTube page, and we will have more information about when that's going to be going. It's going to start. The actual tournament's going to start on the 23rd, but we will have some play-in games starting tomorrow. So should be interesting. I'm looking forward to checking this all out.
Yeah,
Who's your legendary team of choice, by the way? Who you got to win all this?
first of all, 10K. That's pretty interesting because we're fighting for like $200 on this debate thing. So, uh,
I know.
yeah, I wouldn't mind having a free roll for 10K. So make sure to keep tuned on the channel. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm a huge Pistons fan. I saw that the 88 Pistons are on the list, but I want to see a rematch of this 04-05 squad versus the Spurs of the same era because I felt like, man, that could have gone either way. I'm hoping that if we get this played over again, maybe the Pistons will take it this time.
Is this the Ben Wallace led Pistons team? Take look, Prince and who's the other guy? The shooting
Yeah,
guard,
Rip Hamilton. Yeah,
Rip
exactly.
Hamilton.
I,
Yeah.
I, I hope that NBA 2K Sims haven't figured out how to hack a Shaq because Ben Wallace could really
Oh,
undermine
that's
their
right, Ben
chances.
Wallace. Yeah, he had that amazing like 2 year stretch where he was the most dominant player in the league. It was ridiculous. He hit a free throw. I, I've suggested the matchup I want to see is I don't know if we're going to get this, but the Rockets like 94, 95, I believe, the second year that Jordan was out. I would like to see that Hakeem Clyde matchup versus the 95, 96 Bulls, because they likely would have met in the finals both of those years.
That is an amazing idea because I feel like Michael Jordan taking the sabbatical, I mean, that really creates that question mark. Like, what would have happened?
Exactly. Just kind of gifted the tournament to the Rockets that year, so for both those years. So, yeah, I'm hoping we'll see what we got though. We got some great matchups. Maybe some Pacers and Knicks from the '90s. Man, sign me up for some of that. I can't get enough of it. So, as well, I got to mention SuperDraft has a contest something similar to that. So you should go check that out as well. They're doing old games like I'm not sure what the date of this game is, but it's basically the Bulls versus the I think it's a fictional game. So it's the same thing that we're doing. So it's going to be the mid '90s Bulls versus the mid '80s Celtics. You got Bird, McHale, Jordan, Pippen, Parrish. Basically a DFS contest with their multiplier formula. It's a free roll, 500 bucks in prizes. So head on over to superdraft.io, sign up, check it out, and then yeah, I don't know. Like I'm using Larry Bird in my captain spot or in my 2.5 multiplier, I should say, as my contrarian pivot because I think a lot of people are going to go Jordan there,
Dude,
and Bird can fill that box score.
Dennis Rodman 3x. That's gotta
Oh,
be a good
man,
contrarian option because that guy can he can get some boards.
yeah, he could go for 20 boards. Would you put him in the captain spot in that scenario?
Well, there is an advantage on Super Draft with the multipliers of picking the high multipliers, because the average variance in each NBA player is kind of similar. So
All right.
picking the higher multiplier, you benefit from that more. But now that we're talking simulations, it's anyone's game.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm taking Rodman as the captain spot. Let's go. All right, so we're getting into politics here. It's time. This is going to take the place. It's going to be like video games, some of these DFS contests, and maybe a little bit of politics here. We have the Democratic debate tonight between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders on CNN with Jake Tapper, and I forget the other name of one of the moderators there. But basically, the first head-to-head debate that we've seen so far this election cycle. What are you thinking about going in? You got any general thoughts on how this is all going to go down?
Absolutely. I mean, you called it. It's like the last debate had six candidates or around that. Now we're down to two, because they didn't let Tulsi Gabbard in. Unfortunately, that could have been more interesting for DFS if we had three people. But yeah. So going into this, Biden is the overwhelming favorite to take the Democratic nomination. I've seen some odds at about 80%. Um, so right now, Bernie needs a miracle to
Yep.
pull it out. But here's the thing: is this isn't a zero sum game, and we see so often in the party debates, inter party debates, that they don't want to be too negative against each other because the ultimate goal is not only to win the debate but then win the general election for the party. So that creates a really interesting incentive structure where Bernie Sanders, he may not be motivated to necessarily go for the jugular here, as well
Hmm.
as Biden, because they're playing against Donald Trump in the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this is an interesting debate because you kind of have these two wings of the Democratic factions, right? You have the Biden who kind of represents a bit of the establishment, Sanders coming in from the left wing. I'm guessing that I'm assuming Biden's going to take this thing, but Sanders is probably going to go all in to support Biden regardless of their differences. And so yeah, like, but the thing is so far is that Sanders really hasn't gone too negative, right? He hasn't attacked Biden too much. And Biden, he tries to stick as much to the issues as possible, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is leading to my first play of the day on FanDuel,
Oh,
which is
hit me
that
up.
when they're debating these issues, they're never debating each other. They're debating Trump as like kind of the opponent. So
Hmm.
like I see that the number one priced word on FanDuel is Bernie or Biden saying coronavirus at $50.
Yep.
Trump for each of them is $45, but I think that's far more likely given the context of how they approach these Democratic debates. And also, okay, so I went back to the last debate, the New Hampshire debate, and I searched for each of these keywords.
Yep.
Coronavirus wasn't trending at that time, or I mean, it wasn't a issue on the minds of everyone. So uh, that didn't come up in the debate, but Trump came up 65 times. Um, the next
That's great.
highest of all of the words that are applicable here was billionaire, which is only $5. That came
I
up
know.
17 times, so that could be a good value play.
Okay, so let's get into some of these top value options. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, the FanDuel pricing, but basically every time this word is said, you get the equivalent amount of points.
Yeah, so they have the rules here. So plurals count. All the words have to be verbatim except coronavirus. If they say COVID, that
Yep.
counts towards the.
Okay, so here's my first fade of the day. I'm gonna have no shares of. Oh, you can only do one lineup, but I'm gonna have zero of the Bernie says coronavirus, Biden says coronavirus. First off, just way too expensive for me. $50. That's an insane because the price the way the pricing is, you kind of have to go all the way down to the bottom. Secondly, I think that like this is going to be only a very small part of the debate, right? Like they're going to talk about it in the context of healthcare, and they're going to talk about they're going to attack Trump a little bit about it, but you can get the Trump option for $5 less than that. But also, like, I don't think it's going to be a focal point of this debate. It's just going to be like, they're going to talk about it as one of the many conversations they have, and so it's not like something that's going to come up organically in the context of other conversations. Like Trump could come up on any one of these major issues. Billionaire could come up on any one of these issues. Coronavirus is going to be a very small part of the debate.
Yeah, I watched the Bernie Sanders town hall as part of my research, or I guess it was called the fireside chat, just to see, like what
Yeah.
that was last night, and that gives us the best glimpse of what people are going to be talking about. About two-thirds of this 30-minute video was about coronavirus, and one-third was about other topics. So I'm kind of thinking that coronavirus is like a dominant topic. But as you mentioned, the um, the words that'll come up with that include stuff like Trump. Uh, so it's kind of like you double dipping when you pick one of these options like Trump or middle class, which could come up in many different kinds.
Definitely. So would you like, are you going coronavirus as an MVP selection here as a contrarian play, or are you like how are you putting it in your lineup?
Oh man, I can't believe you're asking me to tout coronavirus here, but
Pete Overzet's gonna lose it. I think that's his handle right now, isn't it? Overzet.
so
Oh,
yeah, I think the thing I noticed with the last debate is that with Trump, like there are a lot of answers in that debate where like the word Trump came up 4 or 5 times. Like I can't picture
mhm.
that with coronavirus because you say like coronavirus, and then I feel like you might say stuff like the virus, pandemic, like whatever. There's like so many different ways to refer to it. Where Trump,
Yeah.
they always say Trump. So I feel much more confident that the word Trump will come up than I do the word coronavirus in large.
I think I'm right with you there, and I'm gonna be going with Trump and Bernie, possibly. Like, can you double dip there and take both of them, or do you have a lean about which one? Because I think, like, we'll get into some of these lower prices, but you can pair up, so you can stack the Bernie with there's a price. Oh, there's not on this. Never mind. I was gonna say there's a prop bet for how much each candidate talks, and I thought that would be the one of the ones on FanDuel too, but it's not. So who are you going with? $45 Bernie or $45 Biden in the Trump range?
Yeah, that's a tough question because if you pick both, there's only one combination of other options you can pick to complete your salary. So I think that will be the cash lineup. But we're trying to win this $200 for first year, so we can only really pick Bernie or Biden to say Trump, and there are markets on which one will talk more during the debate, and Bernie is about 2-to-1 favorite to talk more. So I'd say
Yes.
Bernie is the chalk to say. Bernie says Trump is the chalk. Biden says Trump is also a good option, but I wouldn't pick both.
All right, I like it. Yeah, you that was what I was getting at there. So Bernie's like the 180 favorite to talk more. So the only way I think Biden talks more is if he just kind of starts telling some stories about the past or something like that. Like, I don't know. I think Bernie's like a lock to talk more. We'll get into some of these prop bets later. But okay, mid range here we got either one says stock market. Where are you at with that one?
That one's tough because it has to be verbatim. So if they just say market, it's not going to count towards this category. So I'm a little hesitant to think that they're just going to repeat the term stock market over and over again. I mean, it has been one of the biggest issues, but there are just too many ways to refer to that, I feel like. But how are you feeling about stock market? Because you get either Biden or Bernie category.
Yeah, for me, it's just too pricey. Like I'd rather go up to the Trump one. I think we talked about, and once you do that, then you can't go down to some lower end. You have to start taking some of those ones from the lower range. So the one I like the most, I think, from this range is probably middle class or possibly guns. You know, I think those are ones that might come up a lot. Although, like, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, what do you think about? Okay, I'm gonna throw some at you here. China quarantine. Bernie says China, Biden says China, and Biden says quarantine.
Man, so I'm worried that China. I mean, it is extremely relevant to coronavirus, but I don't think that's going to be the part they debate since it is. It'd be hard to like have a conversation about like China's role in this. In my opinion, like the more important and pressing issues, what are the U.S. going to do about it? And they both kind of want to lay out their vision. So I feel like something like quarantine would probably be a better pick than China. But quarantine is a pretty like uncommon word, so maybe I'm a little torn here. How are you feeling about these two?
Yeah, I'm not big on these ones, man. Like I think it's going to be just a part of the debate and not like a huge section of it. So I think middle class, like Bernie's constantly railing about the middle class, right? And Biden as well, right? So you know, I think those that might play into some of this as well. Europe, I think, is just like off the board. I don't even know what that's like. There's going to be maybe one or two mentions. Bernie might mention it in the context of the social safety net, and then yeah, China, I think, is just, they're going to steer clear of even mentioning that, because I think, there's going to be a lot of like xenophobia around that, and they don't want to be echoing some of these Republican talking points, right?
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, like at the last debate, okay, so these words obviously are more relevant now, but China only got mentioned 5 times at the last debate. Europe only got mentioned 3 times. I feel like that's one I'd really avoid because um it's like hard to talk about Europe as a whole. So many different countries, like, and it makes more sense to talk about individual countries. There's just too many ways to refer to the concept of Europe, I think.
Yeah, no,
China,
100.
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
China, being just one country, that could be a little bit more reliable than Europe as
All right, makes sense to me. Which of these, like, and just like when do you enter a lot of these free rolls on DraftKings and stuff, and like, do you have, because like when it's regular sports and there's a lot of people in them, you can get contest sizes up to 200,000. A lot of very casual fans when you get like these free rolls that are sponsored. Do you have a different strategy for those? Do you go more contrarian because you kind of think a lot of casual fans are going to be in there? Like, how does that work for just general DFS for you?
well. Yeah, so I think that free rolls, I think the tendency in any single entry contest is to build like the strongest possible lineup. And in this particularly, with some of these good words being so expensive, I think a lot of people are going to spend $100. Now, this is a very flat payout structure. So this is like really digging into the weeds here, but
I know, but
yeah.
like it's tough because if you kind of want to like be original if you want to take home this $200, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you're not rewarded quite as much because first place is only 10% of the prize pool. But maybe you're leaving a little bit of money on the table that will make you line up a little bit more.
Awesome. All right. Any thoughts on this final middle range here? Europe, China, guns, quarantine, middle class, Medicare, stock market. We're going middle class and Medicare, right? Those are the top ones. Sound right?
Yeah, middle class. I'm kind of leaning towards China now that we've like talked about it a little bit more. But I think that Medicare. I mean, we know Bernie's agenda really is pushing like Medicare for all. So I assume that he's gonna mention that, especially in the context of coronavirus. Middle class is a little bit tougher because I think that there's a lot of ways to refer to that concept as well. I know working class is also like a really common way to like say that. So I'm not very confident that that particular phrase will
I love it. This is the hard hitting analysis that we need
come.
here. See, people aren't thinking about the way that middle class is framed.
Yeah,
We got some.
just for reference, I think I searched for middle class in this New Hampshire debate, and it only came up 3 times that phrase.
Interesting. I looked at a few words. I must have deleted my notes here. I don't know, but I looked up a few words, and one of the things that stuck out to me was that, like, Trump came up, I think, 65 times in one Democratic debate, and it was far and away the most. But the thing is, like, in some of these earlier debates, it's really hard to tell because when you have 12 or 15 candidates or something like that, each one of them is going to want to get their shot in at Trump. Whereas if you have two going back and forth, you're not going to be just railing against that stuff. So I think that's something to take in mind, and just the whole way through here. But let's dig into the lower range here. We've got a bunch of bargain basement options. Let's talk about the chalkiest one of the bunch here, and I think good chalk, I would say. Bernie says billionaire. What's the over under on the amount of times Bernie says billionaire?
So we mentioned that. Okay, so in the last debate, the word billionaire came up 17 times. It
Yeah,
wasn't all Bernie saying it. Said it. Let's see. Biden also said it. Bernie said it 5 times. So that he's going to talk about 3 times more in this debate than he did then. So if we extrapolate that, that would be 15 mentions of the word billionaire. And in his town hall meeting, he did talk a lot about the impact of coronavirus onto the middle class and how um, it will kind of affect different income groups a little bit differently. So I think it is a relevant word.
you think it's irrelevant? Like, it's not going to be a big one?
No, I said I think it is irrelevant,
Oh,
irrelevant, because he did mention it several times in town hall or fireside chat video. So I
for
think,
sure. And this is like one of the huge talking points that he has over the establishment candidates, right? Is that their campaigns are funded by billionaires. Bernie's is not funded by billionaires, so he continually brings that up, and I think that that's going to be continued way for him to attack the Biden campaign. So my favorite play in the slate, I'm saying that. What do you think the ownership's going to be on that? I'm saying
oh
78% ownership.
wow, yeah. I mean, like if you have to pick between Bernie says billionaire and either says wash hands, you got to think that everyone's gonna click billionaire, and like everyone's gonna be wanting to cram in Trump coronavirus in there. So I
What
think
about
that
let's
billionaire
get
will.
to one of the fun ones here. Biden says malarkey.
I don't hate
$1.
that from a roster construction standpoint because, like a lot of times, you're gonna need something that costs a tiny amount to cram in some of the chalk here. But I think it's very unlikely this word comes up once. I mean, it didn't come up once in the debate in New Hampshire, so I think that it's a pretty big long shot. But from a roster construction standpoint, Malarkey could be a good play. Did Malarkey make your lineup?
No, because I feel like the pricing is a little bit tough. So because, like, you have all these really expensive options, like, I actually just left a bunch of cash on in my lineup because I feel like some of these mid-range ones are just as likely to go off as some of the lower mid-range ones are just as likely to be set as some of the mid-range ones. So it just kind of, like, if you put in the Malarkey one, it just really weakens your entire lineup because now you're looking at instead of $20 per thing, you're looking at $25 per selection, which doesn't really give you all that much choice, right? It just kind of maybe makes it easier to put in one of the Biden coronavirus ones. But like we said, I think that the Bernie Trump and Biden Trump ones are probably still better anyways, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you gotta get one of those Trump ones in your lineup here. Like otherwise, first of all, you're gonna get double the points for each time because you can put it in MVP. So if you're fading that, it could be uh, that's hard to make up with a balanced lineup.
Yeah, makes total sense to me. Low range, some more. Gonna rapid fire them at you. Climate change.
That one I don't think is going to come up a lot in this debate because coronavirus will be talked about subject, and I don't think climate change is pertinent discussion.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's one of these topics that's going to be like a cup set a couple times. Okay, quarantine. We think we've kind of gone over
I
that.
think
We went through it in the last one.
the one additional point about quarantine is I feel like social distancing is kind of the buzzword right now. So I feel
Oh
like that will
yeah,
be the topic or what people say.
get quarantine out of your lineups right now. That is the late breaking NBA version of news. Social distancing is the new starting point guard for the either one says impeach, $11. I'm thinking that this is a fade for me. I don't think the Dems are very happy with the way those impeachment proceedings went. It's kind of like they have a little bit of egg on their face for all that. So why on earth would they bring it up? Just to say that he should be impeached for the coronavirus handling? Like, I don't really think. I think impeachment is old news. It's kind of like a player that was on a hot streak 3 months ago but is no longer killing it. It would have been like Jeremy Lin in December, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, I can't even believe impeach is $11 in March Democratic debate DFS.
It's nonsense, right? Total mispricing here by FanDuel. I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, so get impeach out of your lineups. I think it could come up in the context of coronavirus, as you mentioned, but yeah, for it to be a dominant element of the debate, that might be.
Bernie says guns, $9. Also going to be a fade for me. I think one of the things that Biden likes to point out is actually that Bernie's track record on guns from legislative standpoint is actually weak for a Democrat. So I'm guessing Bernie won't be talking about guns much at all.
Absolutely, yeah, I think that it's unlikely to come up in this debate. It is one of the ways that uh, people like to attack Bernie, as you mentioned, because he has kind of the more conservative approach on guns. But guns coming up in general, I feel like that uh, probably won't be very common. In fact, it only was said 3 times in New Hampshire, so you gotta think it's gonna be said even less in a debate where they're talking about coronavirus.
All right. It looks like we and travel ban's the same thing, right? Like travel ban and Russia are rounding out this category, and I just can't see either one being even mentioned more than once or twice.
Well, I feel the travel ban one it will come up because of the travel ban to Europe.
Yep. Good
So,
point. Good
yeah,
point.
so I think that one that could be a lineup filler. Like I feel confident that's going to be mentioned at least once by each candidate,
Yeah.
but whether it'll be a serious topic of debate, a little bit less likely.
Awesome. Okay, final thoughts on this. Give me the winning lineup construction. What are some general things that you're going to be doing here to take home this $200 on FanDuel?
So here's the thing, man. I feel like the most likely lineup by far to win is Bernie says Trump in the captain or
Yeah.
MVP. Biden says Trump in All Star, and then you just pick the 5, 4, and $1 one billionaire, wash hands, and malarkey. I feel like if I had to guess a percentage time this lineup wins, I would say it might be above 10%. So I think,
Awesome.
yeah, I think that like if you just pick this lineup, you're gonna have a good shot to split first with a lot of different.
Okay, so we got Bernie says Trump in the captain or in the
Yeah.
in the two times multiplier. Bernie says billionaire in the 1.5.
I was going with Biden says Trump in the one.
Biden says Trump. Oh my God, just spending all of your cash, but then you only have $3 left.
Well, you got $10, so you got you can get the 3
You
cheapest ones
you have
along
to
with the
take
guys.
malarkey at
Yeah,
that point.
it hurts to click the button for Biden says malarkey, but
See,
that could be the sleeper.
I don't see. Then you got to go. If you do your lineup construction that way, you got to go. Either says wash hands. You got to go malarkey and Bernie says billionaire. You can get all three of those in. This is like a stars and scrubs lineup, Alex.
Here's the thing: is Trump was said 4 times as much as any other term on this list in the last debate.
Yeah.
So like getting 4 of these random words in one if you pick Trump. So it's like, dude, I just feel like this lineup has that overwhelming chance to win. Um,
Wow.
so that's just my take.
This is great, man. This is the insight that people are tuned in for here, man. Because like I would never have gone this route just because of the two words at the bottom. I think that aren't going to be said at all. So interesting stuff here. I mean, really, when you go through this list, it's not like there's not a lot of things that are going to come up very often. I would say like climate change, Medicare is the other one I think that could come up a fair amount. But what does your stats say on that?
Medicare was said 7 times in the debate. Now this one had all 6 candidates, and the only one talking about Medicare, Bernie. So I think there is some value in Medicare. But it's a little bit hard to fit in my lineup because I love these Trump props so much.
Awesome. All right, man. We're going to be splitting it because I'm just going to copy your lineup. 160 way tie here.
Hey, I mean, if we all split first prize, we'll all split this $2,000. We can buy some booze to drink at home alone.
Yeah, or we can like, or we can enter some MMA contests next week because the
There we
MMA is
go.
going to save us all. So, how about I got a few prop bets for you.
Okay.
I want to see if you got any thoughts on them. Uh, what color tie will Bernie Sanders wear for the debate? Blue striped plus 120, blue checkered plus 225, blue polka dot plus 750, blue solid plus 1000, red plus 1000, other color plus 2500. Here, I got a few thoughts on this. Every single tie he's worn has had some blue in it so far as I can tell. The only other bet I would place on this is possibly other color plus 2500 in case he goes for like a gray or something.
This is a hilarious market because it's not exactly like top secret what color tie Bernie's wearing. So like you could potentially just like email someone on the Bernie Sanders campaign or something and just ask them like what tie is he wearing, and then you make some free money, right?
And then it goes off the board, man, because everyone's betting it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Don't do it on public Twitter. Do it through DMs.
Yeah, yeah. Just slide into those DMs of Dave Sirota. Blue strike plus 120. That's where you want to go if you want to make a little cash bet on this, because that's his favorite style of tie, according to every single debate picture that I've looked at so far. And how about Joe Biden? We got red plus 140, blue and white plus 180, plus blue 300. He seems to like that he goes for the red, the blue stripe, and the solid light blue. Those are the three I saw. But I don't know. Like, is red? That seems like kind of a nod to the Republicans if you're going to be wearing red, right?
Yeah, I mean, what does your research say about this market?
So he does wear red ties. Yeah, like he wears them like one out of every three debates. So like it's definitely in play. But I think I'm just curious about these other colors because like you usually go with like the blue if you're a Democrat, right? Because it just goes with the party colors. But maybe there's like these odds for the other colors are way higher. So maybe like you throw in a little loophole. Maybe there's some like fashion assistant there that thinks Bernie's down and needs to start switching things up. I don't know. Like there's some possibilities here.
Yeah, I mean, the game's changed, so you can't expect the styles to stay the same.
Okay, do you have any hot takes? Are you going are you on either of those tie colors?
Yeah, I mean, dude, blue and white stripe, that's a lock.
Okay, blue lock in blue and white stripe. This one's actually one of my favorites here. And this is how many times will Biden mention Obama during debate? Over 4.5 minus 115, under 4.5 minus 115. I am taking the over on this. I looked up past debate mentions. There's actually a couple of trackers out there. In the NBC debate, he mentioned him 5 times. In the CNN debate, he mentioned him 7 times. Now that is with a lot less airtime than tonight because this is a two-man race. So I am going to say that I'm going to take the over here, and it's going to go minimum 5 times.
Absolutely. I mean, if Obama or Biden says Obama was one of the FanDuel bets you could make, it'd be at least $20 because like it could come up in so many contexts, and like one of his strategies is to run on like his legacy as Obama's vice president. So reminding people of all of the things they did is gonna,
It's a lock, right? Like
yeah.
just get to your local bookmaker and lock that in. Minus 115, forget it. That's my favorite bet of the night. I think that's going to be a moneymaker. I cannot envision a scenario where Biden is not mentioning him as any chance he can, especially because now that he's the front runner, he's just going to want to solidify and bring people that warm apple pie feeling of the America before Trump, when that will attract a lot of voters. So here's one that's right up your alley. I think you're going to be able to help people with. How many times will Donald Trump be mentioned during the debate? If you had to guess what the over under was
Oh man.
versus your research, what would you guess it at?
I think that I would set the over under at probably maybe like 75.
Okay, so this is going to be a lock. You're going to love this. 16.5, Alex, is the over
What?
under for Trump mentions.
Well, yeah, that dude, that's insane. I mean, they mentioned him 65 times at the last debate, but
Yeah, 161 times in the August debate.
like yeah, I might have to take advantage of some of this free money these sites are.
I know, man. Like, just go find your book. We got some exciting news coming soon with our. We'll make it very easy for you to find the best odds on bets like these coming soon. So stay tuned for that. Okay, I got a couple more to throw at you if you maybe have some thoughts here. How many times will Donald Trump tweet during the debate? Over 3.5. Over under. Sorry, is 3.5.
Honestly, like I don't have any expertise in this market, so I would probably stay away from betting it. But do you have a lean one way or the other?
I can tell you the last two debate numbers was
Okay.
3 and 2. So I lean
Oof.
under here. I think Trump's probably, you never know what he's doing if he's just kicking back and watching this. But with so much else going on in the world, my guess is maybe his focus is a little bit off that. So I'm going to take the under 3.5 tweets from Trump here, though that could change very quickly. I mean, any um, anything that is said that he doesn't like, it could set him off on a tirade, right? So it's entirely possible.
So what you want to do is parlay the Trump mentions and Trump tweets,
Oh
because
my
like
god.
as you mentioned, there
I,
could be some sort of correlation there.
I wish sometimes sites will let you parlay those together. It's pretty rare, but if you can find a site that'll let you do that, I think that's a great idea. Okay, final couple here. Which candidate will speak the most during the debate? I am locking in Bernie Sanders at -180, Joe Biden plus 145. What you got?
I think Bernie Sanders is the best bet here, even though the odds are heavily towards Bernie, because I feel like since he's the underdog, he has to like say more than Biden, and I don't think Biden's gonna wanna. Uh, it's not in his favor either to like talk a lot. So I think that I feel pretty confident Bernie's gonna talk more.
Okay, I like it. Final one here for you. Will Donald Trump tweet out Crazy Bernie or Sleepy Joe during the debate? Plus 200, yes. No, -275.
Well, as you mentioned, he only tweeted 3 times last debate, so yeah, I think no is a lot more likely. But what did he say those terms at all in the last debate?
I don't think he said either one of them in the last two, but he said them, like, throughout the fall and spring and winter. So it's kind of like it's tough to say. I would lean to what you're saying there, is like, if the over under is 3.5, that means one of those three has to concern the that nickname. So I think it's entirely possible that you could get the under there. And yeah, if you can, I doubt you'd be able to parlay it, but you never know.
I like it.
Awesome. All right. I guess that's probably going to wrap it up, unless I'm missing anything. Anything else you want to go over about this debate that we haven't hit on yet?
Just well, I think this is going to be a really exciting debate because everyone, for the most part, is going to be staying home tonight and probably tuning into this debate a lot more. So the stakes couldn't be higher for both candidates. So it'll be really exciting to watch. And it's what our
You are
FanDuel
right. There
lineups
should be
there.
some props on the viewership for this one, because pretty much everyone is going to be. Although the flip side of that is, so many states have already voted, right? So maybe it's more of a like later states voting kind of thing.
Yeah, but you gotta think of this, like all the people who would be watching the Lakers game right now, like they don't have their usual programming. So this is
It's
like
true,
the
man.
best
It's
sporting
true.
event like we have tonight, aside from Mexican soccer, which is up there.
All right, I like it. Fine. I got one more question for you as well about MMA, since we're going to be playing a lot of it. You got any general tips for the viewing audience there for how you attack your MMA lineups? Are you doing anything creative or interesting that people might not know about?
Yeah, absolutely. Stay tuned on our website for more MMA information. I'll try to do some videos and articles this week. The most
Oh,
important
love
thing
it.
with MMA is like you want to target fights that tend to be a little bit more offensive fighters because the amount of fantasy points in each fight varies wildly. So some guys really go out swinging. Like we saw that last week with Bia Maleki and Veronica Macedo. They were just like fighting the entire 15 minutes, but then you see other fights like that Adesanya fight where they're just dancing around. So if you can predict which fights will be the best fights, then you just build lineups with guys from both sides or girls, and just you can hedge your bets a little bit that way.
Perfect. Well, we got the show for you every 7:30 Eastern on Thursdays moving forward. We're going to have a live MMA show. Had some great numbers for it this week. These guys are pros. And of course, Mark Stein's article you can catch on the awesemo.com webpage every single week for the foreseeable future. When is this all going to be over, Alex? You think like are we back to normalcy? What's your over under on the date?
So there are betting markets that are offering odds for when NBA and MLB stuff will start back up again. And I have some bad news for everyone. Like, I think that Christian Wood being diagnosed with coronavirus was a big step in the wrong direction for they starting back up again because, um, like they could be liable for anyone catching coronavirus while the league's in session, especially if there are no fans and stuff. So I think that the odds I saw were at minus 400 that it starts after April 18th. So I spent the whole last couple days planning out, like what are all the things I need to do between now and the next like month and a half, because it sounds like we're not going to have a lot of sports to play DFS for.
There bad news. Well, we'll get you covered with some 2K sports at least, and then we'll work on some more stuff as we get into this summer season. And hopefully, fingers crossed, things go very well. And a couple of weeks we're looking at this in the back mirror, but you never know. The important thing, of course, is to stay home, socially isolate, wash those hands, and watch the debate tonight and get into that FanDuel contest for 200 free bucks at the top prize. So thanks so much for doing this today. This was fun. Glad we could get a little bit of extra DFS content in here. Got anything else to promote or talk about before we sign on out?
Yeah, well, just to everyone who's a member of our site, thanks so much for the support. Obviously, we don't have a lot of content right now, so we paused all the memberships, but we're giving all the MMA stuff for free. We got videos you talk about. We have some soccer content coming out, and hopefully the sites will come up with some new formats. Maybe play draft will come back sooner rather
Oh,
than later. So I'm keeping an eye
oh,
for the best ball stuff.
I like it.
But just everyone, stay safe. Hopefully, we can all make it through this period of lack of sports. But yeah, hopefully we can have fun during this month and a half or longer too. So make sure to keep coming up with ideas for how to keep DFS interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thanks again to all of the people that tune into these shows and the subs for continuing to support us. And we'll be back with some great content soon. And of course, if you are a premium member and you haven't heard yet, all of our subscriptions are paused until sports comes back. So we're not going to be charging you a dime until that's done. So awesome. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the debate tonight. I'm going to be watching Star Wars as well. I haven't seen the new Star Wars yet, which just came out a little bit early. So just finished Love is Blind and onward and upward to the next content to consume here, Alex.
All right, good luck, everybody. See you guys sooner rather than later.